It is a Friday afternoon. That means it is a Facebook Live Friday. Easy for me to say. Brian Milam, Alex Walker. And let's just jump right into it. A lot of breaking news today. We'll get to that in just a second. But tomorrow is the second scrimmage for Kentucky football because the season is right around the corner at the end of the month. Scrimmage number one did not go so well for Mark Stoops. He said the offense was okay, defense not so okay.
So you'd expect and he literally was like, the defense was disappointing.
Yeah.
He could tell he was frustrated. He didn't sense urgency from that group, and he thought going into the scrimmage the defense would dominate. They did not. So in scrimmage number two, you would hope the defense, takes his message, shows that urgency, and takes some strides, especially in the secondary. They mentioned this week that they're going to mix and match some pieces early on in the season to see which cornerbacks stick, which safeties stick. And I think scrimmage number two will give us a little bit more of a glimpse of what freshmen and sophomores are picking things up a little quicker to show that they can play in week one against Toledo.
You guys were out there last week.
Yep.
I've been over at practice for the presser earlier this week with the defense. And that phrase, sense of urgency, came up again. And that's not good.
No.
I know that when you have a 10-win season, you've had the Citrus Bowl win, and I just wonder for some of the players, and I am not saying this is the case, but I've also heard, a sense of urgency, we need to make sure that these guys are focused and they're concentrating. I sure hope there's not a 10-win Citrus Bowl hangover from the guys who are now filling in for the spots, and we all know the names of the Kentucky football players who departed last year. Benny Snell, Josh Allen, Mike Edwards, just on and on and on, Bunchy Stallings. There has to be not just a sense of urgency, but I asked Phil Hoskins, if you have a team full of leaders and this is your last crack at it, how do you not have a sense of urgency? I know if I was a senior again, I would be saying, look, guys, this is my last go around and you're not going to screw it up for me, personally.
And this is also, it's not like you're playing a week one opponent that's just going to lay down.
Right.
For people that don't know anything about Toledo,
they better know.
Not only do they have a senior quarterback that I believe led the MAC in passing last year, at least was second in the MAC in passing last year, he might throw it 50 times in week one against a secondary that doesn't have a lot of experience. Not only is it that, but it's a noon game. Noon games are typically, you come out maybe a little flat. Let's say Toledo comes out and jumps up 10-0 just like that. And you got an offense that's still trying to figure out what their identity is. That's not a good formula for week one. So I think that's one of the reasons why Mark Stoops is stressing that urgency, because I think he also realizes that week one's not a gimme. And Toledo was picked to win their side of the MAC. And the MAC is always that conference that seems to spring at least one or two week one, week two upsets. So I think that's one of the reasons why he's stressing, look, you can't focus on what happened last year. This is a new season. Teams are gunning for us now. We're not necessarily the underdog anymore. So get focused and make sure you guys are down to business.
The one thing I like, Brad White, the defensive coordinator, he said the other day, he said, we just can't roll the football out there and play. This is not last year's ball club. We can't just say, all right, you just go out there and make some plays. We're going to put you in a good position. This is a team, as we know, we've talked about it ad nauseum, that you got a lot of new faces, a lot of new places, new roles that are being taken up by a lot of guys, and they've got to figure out soon. And I think this comes from Cash Daniel. This comes from Phil Hoskins. This comes from Calvin Taylor. This comes from Landon Young, Drake Jackson. These guys who have been here now 3 and 4 years. Look, this is how we have to do it. Last year you got by on a lot of talent in certain games. Well, you still have a lot of talent, but it's unproven talent. And you mentioned Toledo. Anytime, well, I won't say anytime, but the best time to pull off an upset early in the season, because nobody really knows what they have completely until game time. And yeah, you're right, Toledo can be a scary team. I want to say quickly, the breaking news we mentioned a moment ago, Avery Williamson tears his ACL. He is done for the year in a ball game last night. And one of the classy guys, if not one of the classiest, the most professional, nicest, it just kind of breaks your heart when bad things happen to the good guys.
Especially when it happens in a preseason game.
Yeah,
it's one thing to happen in practice or someone falls on you or something freak like that, but he was playing with backups in extended time, trying to shake off some of that rust, and you hate to see a veteran like that get hurt in a preseason setting in a game that doesn't matter. You always hate to see injuries happen in that way, and at this point in his career, he is that signal caller for the Jets defense, and that's going to be a huge blow to the middle of New York's line.
Yeah.
You hate to see it, especially a UK guy. It's back-to-back days now where UK stars have gone down with the same injury, so that's tough to see.
Yeah, DeMarcus Cousins, in case you had not heard yesterday, DeMarcus Cousins should miss most of this upcoming season, tears his ACL, so the Lakers' new big man, LA on the look again for somebody to fill his spot. Avery Williamson is down. And for DeMarcus, he's had a torn Achilles, torn quad, torn ACL in back-to-back seasons.
And the bummer about DeMarcus, too, is when he was in Lexington a couple weeks ago for that basketball tournament, he just seemed so refreshed because he said, finally, I feel healthy. And he said it multiple times in the interview, I feel healthy, I feel like I'm ready to return to my former self and get back to what I can really do in a season. And to see him say that, and then this happens, you feel for him because he felt like he was in a great spot, not only health-wise, but in a great spot to contend for a championship, which is what he's wanted to do for a while now. And now that that's going to be cut short potentially is tough to see for a guy that, look, man, like he wanted to chase the ring with the Warriors last year, had that chance. He gets to play with Anthony Davis and LeBron James, but that dream will at least be cut short for most of the season.
Yeah, he's going to have to sit and watch LeBron and Anthony and some of those guys. Let's talk about something positive, won't you?
Sure. It's a Friday. Good vibes.
It's a Friday. It's also the Friday before the high school football season starts. And tonight we've got some scrimmages around central, eastern Kentucky, Louisville. They're just going all over the place. The big one, though, right down the road, literally a mile and a half, 2 miles away, Trinity comes to Douglas to play. And Douglas is in that third season, ready to take over the world. You know, maybe. They're in a new class. They still have Scott County with them. But you talk about a scrimmage. This ain't your everyday scrimmage, man. This is Trinity.
I'm looking forward to this one too, because these are two heavyweight contenders. Yeah. You hope everyone leaves healthy, because you don't. I mean, as good of a game this is, you don't want anyone to get hurt and affect their actual season. But when we're talking about a measuring stick, you're going to leave tonight saying, okay, we got some holes here, we got some holes here, or you leave and say, Cam Jones left under center for Douglas, but they got this other kid that's legit, and he proved it against a really good Trinity defense. So you'll see a pretty good crowd tonight, I think. I mean, it's going to be nice out tonight. It's right down the street from Moss. I think it's going to be a really fun game to watch. A lot of Division I talent too. So if you want to watch some top-notch guys that are going to play at the next level, Dakel Crowdis among others, go out and catch that one.
Yeah, sure. You mentioned measuring stick. This is more like a measuring tree. I mean, there are ways to start. And then there's Trinity coming to town. Trinity has not been, I'm trying to think just off the top of my head, Trinity has not come, I don't believe, to Central Kentucky since 1991 when Clark County beat them in the state semifinals. I believe that is the last time that Trinity made a trip to Lexington. They may have come, maybe they did in the 90s once. Or when Henry Clay played them. I know Henry Clay lost to Trinity in the late 2000s, but this may be the first time in a long time they come, and they don't come just for anybody. Douglas is really on the rise. They have a lot of talent. We'll see what they can do.
1991 was a good year, by the way.
Why was that?
Year Sierra was born.
Well, why
big
was
year.
that? Wow,
big year. Yep.
Yeah, I was 17.
28.
I was a senior in high school. That's great. Hey,
trying to make you feel old on a Friday.
Well, I said let's talk about something positive, not that. Last year you've got to Lexington around this time last year, did you not?
It's been about a year. I think I started
almost
today a year ago.
That's what I was going to say.
Yep.
See, some people think about this stuff.
That's nice of you. See, where's my cake though? Come on.
Yeah, right. Anyway, but last year was your first time in Kentucky for football, for basketball, for everything. What did you take away from last year's football season because it was your first, and how do you kind of parlay that into year number 2 in high school?
Last year was starting when I did, there wasn't much wiggle room to get used to all the different teams and the districts and who are the contenders and whatnot. But biggest takeaway from this area is there's so much talent. Division I talent that I used to work in Iowa, spent a little time in North Carolina. There are some good players, but Lexington's got some studs. In Central Eastern Kentucky, they have some Division I talent. So that's something that I enjoy watching, because it's one thing to watch a high school game, but when you're watching a high school game with that upper elite talent, that's a lot of fun to watch. And I'm also, now that I kind of know the lay of the land and I know the history and some of the at least some of the recent history with Douglas and Scott County, you kind of know the background stories.
Right.
that helps a lot when you're kind of analyzing a story and telling a story after the fact, because you know that history. You at least know enough to be able to kind of go into a matchup looking for certain things. And that's always been fun to kind of, because last year it's like, okay, all I know is these two teams are playing, and I'm going to say the score, say who scored the touchdown. Now it's, remember a couple of years ago what happened? So that's always been fun to at least learn that history in this area.
And one other thing before we kind of wrap up this Facebook Live Friday, a lot of teams, high school football speaking now, are in new districts, new classes. There's been a reshuffling, and this reshuffle will take place for the next, I think, through 2022. You've got Douglas and Scott County. Great Crossing begins football next week for real against Scott County, which I know there's a lot of people over in Scott County wanted to see that, but I don't know if there's Scott County's coming out for blood. They don't want, I'm just saying, and they know that. The folks at Great Crossing know that, but I cannot wait to see what the Warhawks do this season. That's going to be a great storyline. But that one district, 5A District 6, has Douglas, Grant County, Great Crossing, Moco, go Moco, and Scott County. But another big one is Lexington Catholic. They will move to 4A with Boyle County, Bourbon, and Anderson. That's going to be a pretty competitive district, I think, for several years to come. But I still like to see some of the rivalries that we've seen. Boyle and Catholic have met for like the last 2 millennia, and they have always gone to the region final. The winner of that game had a great season. Golly, I can't wait, man. I don't know if it shows, but I can't wait.
It's 1 week away, and I think not only are the scrimmages tonight good for the teams to shake off the rust, but we got to shake off the rust for shooting the game too.
Speak for yourself,
get
dog.
the form back. You know what I mean? It's going to be tough.
No, it's not. It's
going to be tough.
I'm ready to go.
Well,
when it comes to football shooting, there's only one guy that has ever gotten me early in the season, and that was Kyle Nelson, the quarterback at Bell County years and years ago, and whose brother now runs all of the BD's Mongolian Grill. So yeah, I'm owed a free meal somewhere along the way.
If you guys have missed, I mean, we've been, for the last 20 or so days, we've been previewing most of the teams in our area, a countdown to game time. We have a tab on our website if you want to check out any of those previews. We got about, I believe, 6 left after today, 7 left. So we have previews from all those teams with some great information about the realignment, also the storylines going into this year.
Southwestern will be shown today. Yep. Corbin will be shown tomorrow. And Corbin, they also come to Lexington tonight to play in a scrimmage game over at Lafayette. I think they're taking on Henry Clay in that ball game. But it's going to be a lot of fun. High school football is almost here, 1 week away. And join us every night, WKYT. For Alex Walker, I'm Brian Milam. We will see you next Friday.